Alrighty, welcome back to my favorite part of the channel where I get to sit down with my friends and colleagues who've broken into elite business careers. And in these conversations, we break down the exact plays they made from college to MBA and beyond so you can run a similar play. Today's a very special guest, my brother Ade. He's an HBCU product out of Paul Quinn College. He's also Nigerian American from New York, but Dallas has adopted the brother. He is known as the real estate private equity plug in our class. In a class full of sharks, Ade is one of our go-to people for real estate private equity. This is a really, really good conversation, a deep dive on real estate private equity, what a transaction looks like, with how money is really made in this game because Ade has done it at the highest level. In this conversation, we also talk about the support of his wife and the power of brotherhood and community. This is one of the richest conversations that I think the world needs to hear. Tap in. This is Ade's Playbook. Share it with somebody special. Enjoy. What is real estate private equity?
I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Just to be 24 years old with that type of experience, surrounded by that type of money in Texas is amazing. Is there anything that like really surprised you about real estate private equity?
Yeah, I'd say one thing that surprised me about real estate private equity is, so I am the first Paul Quinn grad to graduate from an Ivy League business school. I was studying civil engineering there, City Tech it's called. Business offers you the ability to create value in multiple spaces. A black man growing up in the US, like my identity's affirmed. Casino night, similar to how we have fight night. Yeah.
Is there anything about this industry that you believe people misunderstand? You ever wonder how people end up in money-making careers that run the modern economy? Some people stumble upon these life-changing opportunities, and some people find out when it's too late, if they ever find out, and neither should be the case. So we're putting the careers of the business landscape into perspective, one conversation at a time. Here with my brother Ade. Man, how you doing, bro?
Doing well. Good to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Already, man. Look, so on this channel, bro, we really try to share information to the younger generations and our peers as well, information that we didn't have growing up. So with that being said, what are some key elements about your upbringing that we need to know about you?
Yeah, so starting from baseline, right? So grew up in New York, foundations, I say three things, right? So grew up in a Christian household who immigrated to the U.S. as my parents and grew up pretty entrepreneurial. So those three things really shaped my upbringing as a kid. So, growing up in the church was really pivotal for me because that set my character, set my belief system in place, as well as integrity, just certain things like that. And then just growing up, first of 5 kids in a Nigerian household, there's some trauma that I'm working through from that.
Yeah.
But no, it's been good because it created in me a sense of resilience. My parents, especially let's talk about my dad real quick. I don't know how much time you have, but
bro, please,
right,
because
cool.
I Christian, Nigerian, entrepreneur. I know you got stories.
Yeah.
Let's get it. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So my dad, he grew up in Nigeria and was supposed to pursue petroleum engineering. He studied geology, graduated in the 80s, there weren't any jobs right in Nigeria. So he came to the US, came to New York and restarted, security jobs, working at McDonald's, stuff like that. So, had 5 kids and I'm the oldest of 5. So, there was always a sense of, we've come here to sacrifice so that you all can have a better life.
Yeah.
And so, every opportunity I have to maximize because, I know that there are folks who have sacrificed for me to be here.
Yeah.
And so that drives me, right? Also entrepreneurial, grew up in New York, loved fashion, ran a clothing line for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so, we can get more into that stuff, but so those are some 3 things that shaped my upbringing.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So you end up going to Paul Quinn College, right?
That's right.
So to talk to me about the conversation of college in your household, right? Was there an expectation to go to a HBCU? Did your parents want you to stay closer to home? And ultimately, how did you make that decision to go to Paul Quinn?
Yeah, so I graduated from high school, I was 16, and the high school I had a program with a community college that I went to in New York, right? So that was, free was paid for, and my parents wanted me to stay close to home.
Got you.
Right, so I was studying civil engineering there at City Tech, it's called, and I always wanted to get out of the house. I always wanted to move as far from the house as possible.
Yeah.
So, I was looking for opportunities to do that, and I wanted to study business. I didn't want to study civil engineering, right?
Okay.
So got fortunate that Michael Sorrell, who's a president of Paul Quinn College, he knew my high school counselors, wanted to recruit some students from my high school, and he came to New York. This is probably like 2013.
Wow.
Right? And so he came to recruit some students. I showed him my business plan for the clothing line I ran. I got a full scholarship from that conversation.
We need it.
Paul Quinn. Yeah,
we need it. Yeah.
Money was talking, so
I like it.
He made that move.
I like it, man. So you never wanted to go to like an Ivy League or like a state school, or did it matter to you at the time? You just wanted to get school paid for?
I really wanted to get school paid for, and to be honest, it just seemed far-fetched. There was no one who was in my environment who was going to an Ivy League school, and so just the idea of going to a school where, you know, it's paid for, I can get education, and get out of New York was appealing to me.
And I think you came to a great city.
Yeah,
you know, I love Dallas.
The great state of Texas.
Of
great,
course.
Great country.
The great country of Texas. You got it.
Yeah.
So you had a business plan at the age of 17 at this time?
Yeah, like 16,
17.
Yeah.
I have a lot of immigrant friends, right? From my understanding, it's doctor, lawyer, engineer, or bust.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why business for you?
So you nailed it.
Yeah.
Like my brother he's a doctor now. So it was definitely doctor, lawyer, engineer. But the reason I wanted to pursue business is, you know, I'm a creative problem solver, right? And I feel like with engineering, there's sort of it's a very structured path.
Yeah.
And there can be a limit or a cap as far as like what you can pursue. But business offers you the ability to, you know, create value in multiple spaces, you know, and, you know, for someone who can be a divergent thinker, who can bring, you know, different industries together, business is a great avenue to do that. And I feel like engineering will keep me a little bit limited.
Let's talk about your time at Paul Quinn, right? So we'll talk about what you got into right after graduation, but how did your experience at Paul Quinn sort of shaped how you see the world and also how you see business?
Yeah. So my experience at Paul Quinn, it's really a crash course in what it takes to be a business leader and not just the academic version of that, right? So one thing that we learned there is closed mouths don't get fed.
Okay.
Right. And
Talk about it.
Yeah. I took a class with our college president where, you know, every week we had to find a problem on campus, solve it, and present on that problem, right? And we were graded pretty firmly on that, you know? So it got our entrepreneurial bug going. We were also taught that the needs of the community supersede the wants of the individual. So, you know, servant leadership was really woven through the curriculum there. And also it's an HBCU, right? So, and it's a small HBCU, right? We're going to talk about that. So it really gives you the confidence that, you know, as a Black man growing up in, you know, the US, like, my identity is affirmed here. And that's really important at that age, you know, 18 to 22 years old. That was really important for me for, you know, to the point where wherever I go now, you know, whatever space I'm in, I'm confident in my own identity.
Man, that's dope. So from freshman year to senior year, you're sort of getting your 10,000 hours in creative problem solving in the business space.
That's right.
That's dope, bro. We were not doing that in undergrad. We were doing push-ups at 6 a.m. in undergrad. That's okay though. It's okay. Different, you know, whatever. So you had a mentor in undergrad in Dan Healy. So he sort of exposed you to real estate. What about real estate specifically excites you?
So there's two things about real estate that are really interesting to me. So first thing is, you know, when you look around you, the built world governs everything that we do, from how we live, how we work, how we play. You know, there's an asset that ties to, you know, everything that we do in our lives, right? And so how do you build, you know, assets, communities that govern how people move, right? And so also, there's also the financial part of that, right? So, you know, investing in these assets, you know, how do you underwrite it to at a good basis, right? How do you, you know, add value to it over your whole period and, you know, sell it at a profitable you know, return for us, for our investors. So those are the two things that I find interesting. So it's the built world part, it's the investing part of it, you know, bringing those together. And then also, you know, my background in civil engineering is a pretty good mix of that too.
That's interesting. Because I know you mentioned earlier, like you sort of have a creative side to you as well. And from what I know about real estate, there is no one way to do a transaction. However you can get it done legally, morally, and ethically, of course. Be creative with it and get the job done.
That's right.
That's awesome, bro. So man, just thinking about your upbringing, growing up in New York, coming to Dallas, doing your old creative thing with your clothing line, engineering, real estate, private equity. With all of that, as you reflect on your upbringing, what conversations do you think were missing in your home that would have better prepared you for this? And I know your parents are going to be watching. This is, this is just game we're giving, right? Your parents did a great job, right? Great job. Absolutely.
Conversations that were missed were a broader spectrum of career opportunities, right? How to invest, your personal finances, right? I mean, personal health is a different thing as well, but I think those sort of conversations were helpful. Also, it's not just about how hard you work, right? It's also about, building those relationships, right? Like, how can you work a room, right?
Yeah.
Do people know you for a certain skill set? How do you add value to other people, right? So those are the sort of conversations that I had to learn, on the fly, at the job, at school. So those are things I learned on my own.
I love it. So one term we've mentioned a few times here is real estate private equity. What is real estate private equity?
I'm glad we're having this conversation because 10 years ago, I didn't know the answer to this question.
All right, put us on game, bro.
So we'll do that. So real estate private equity. So first starting at the asset level, right? So you're investing in commercial real estate. So typically there's two ways that, you'll make money through real estate. It's through cash flow, right? So let's say if there's a tenant in the place, whether it's an apartment building, it's an office, it's retail, the tenant is paying you on a monthly basis rent, right? So that's one way to make money. Second way is through appreciation, right? So, if you've, location is the, the moniker of real estate, right? So if you've purchased an asset in a great location, good basis, so over time, that asset is going to, increase in value, right? So real estate private equity is, raising money from a number of investors who we'll call limited partners. Right. And so the general partner is the person who's raising the money, the group who's raising the money. From the limited partners, general partner then invests that money over a time period, which is typically 10 years. So they'll invest the money, let's say 3 to 5 years, will deploy capital, will hold, and then sell to produce a return for the GP and the LPs.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that overview. So did you learn that in your first job after undergrad, or did you learn about real estate private equity in undergrad? Because I know you underwrote over $3 billion in commercial real estate transactions. Talk to us about like how you learned about real estate private equity and what does underwriting $3 billion in transactions, what does that mean? Because to me, I'm like, yo, that's wild. Go ahead.
It is a lot. So I gained the experience really at the job, right? So, after I graduated from Paul Quinn, this is 2018, I worked at Crow Holdings Capital, so one of the larger real estate private equity players in the country. They have about $33 billion of assets under management. It's not a small figure.
Not at all. Not at all. I just need one of them figures.
Yeah, just need one of them.
Just give me one of them. Yeah.
Right. So testament to them, they have an excellent training program there. So, at Paul Quinn, I got the basics of, accounting, but we didn't go that far into Excel modeling. So for the first 6 months at Crow, they're just training us on how to model a deal, right? So how to use Excel, how to look at, let's say if it's a strip mall, if it's a retail asset, how do you underwrite that? How do you underwrite multifamily assets? So, I got my reps at Crow, so semi-annually we have what's called asset plans where we, look at all the assets in a portfolio, say, okay, how much was it worth 6 months ago? How much is it worth now? And so there was a lot of late nights just cranking through that stuff. Right. So I got a lot of reps in at Crow across different asset classes. So did that and then, pivoted to Avery Capital as well. I don't know if you want to.
Oh, no, we're going to talk about Avery because that's crazy too. But no, I want to foot stomp something though, because I think when I was in undergrad, I thought you had to know how to do the job already, but it's more so like they recruit you for your mindset and your aptitude to learn. They will teach you how to do what they need you to do. Is that safe to say?
That's not always the case.
Okay.
I was fortunate that, being at a place like Crow, where they have a strong training program, I was able to, someone who just had like foundational understanding of real estate can come in within the first 6 months, can be ready to go.
Got you.
Every place is not like that.
That's fair.
So I was fortunate to have landed at that spot where I could ramp up, in 6 months.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Crow.
Yeah.
Shout out to Crow. And then I know we're gonna be talking to some consultants later, and I know that's the case for at least management consulting, right? So you've done management consulting recruiting too, right? So it's about like, are you sharp, and do you have a good attitude? We will teach you how to be insert brand, insert whatever. So that's good to know. Yeah. That's good to know. So sort of walk me through what it looks like to source a deal and to like execute a transaction in real estate private equity.
There are a few different stages to, the deal life cycle, right? So there's sourcing the deal, and we'll talk through what that is. So sourcing the deal, there's underwriting the deal. You're going through diligence. So let's say you sign an agreement or sign an LOI, you go through diligence, close it, you manage it, you sell it, right? So that's the life cycle of a deal.
Got you.
Right. So from sourcing, there's a few ways you can do it. Either brokers can reach out to you, can reach out to brokers. They'll sell you, stuff that they're marketing. So a broker is pretty much the entity that's in between the seller and the buyer. So they're typically representing, seller's interest, right?
Yep.
So, so you can get a broker deal. Sometimes that's going to be marked up, right? Or you can get an off-market deal, right? Let's say you do some, you roll up your sleeves, you hustle, you find a deal in the market that's not being listed, right? Yeah. You probably can get, more attractive deal terms on that, right? So that's the sourcing part, right? So you get a deal in, right? You would typically have, some criteria of what you're looking to make from this deal, right? So let's say I'm looking to get, I don't know, 15% IRR. That's a rate of return, right?
Got you.
Yeah, I say I'm trying to get that from this deal, right? I'm trying to get 2+2 multiple on this deal, right? So we can talk through what that means too. But you're gonna assess the deal, the cash flow of that deal, the strength of that cash flow, and say, okay, what hold period can I put this on? Am I gonna get debt on this? You're gonna pull a lot of different levers on it to say, all right, if I want to hold this thing for 5 years, like, is this gonna get me the returns I want in that period, right? So you underwrite that. Let's say you get to a yes, right? You then pitch the seller on that. Let's say they agree. You go to what's called a letter of intent, right? So after you and the seller sign a letter of intent, you're gonna go through, some diligence on the deal, right? To see, all right, I've seen it, I've seen what it says on paper. Now I need to go on site.
Right.
I need to dig in.
Yeah. You need to see if this math maths.
Yeah, I need to know if the math is going to math.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, sellers may hide stuff. Brokers may hide stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So you got to be diligent. Sometimes you have to hire third parties, someone who can look at the environmental. So I've had to get on the roof. I've had to get on the roof because a seller told me the whole roof had a warranty and half of it had a warranty on it. So then we had to negotiate a price reduction because of that. So that's stuff like that will pop up in diligence. Yeah. Right. So like I negotiated like a $80,000 reduction in purchase price because, it wasn't what they said it was.
Yeah.
So sometimes they may hide stuff.
Okay.
Right. So let's say you get through that, you buy the deal, right? Then you have to hold it for your period. Your whole period maybe is 5 years.
Do you always have to hold it for 5 years? Like
no.
why? Like what dictates the holding period?
That's a good question. It depends on the strategy, right? Like 5 is typically, so it's taking a step back, right?
Okay, yeah.
So like I said, you have a investment horizon, right?
Gotcha.
So your fund, when you're raising money from LPs, typically you raise that through a fund vehicle, right? And so that fund has a lifespan of like 10 years. That's standard in real estate, private equity, venture capital. That's pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
And so, depends on where you are in that life cycle of the fund. If I just raised the capital and I got 10 years, I could hold it for longer than 5 years.
Right.
I could hold it for 8 years if I need to. Right. If I'm in year 3, year 4, I gotta, I'm working against a cap.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
So I probably can hold it for like 5 years before I sell. Right. And also you want to start selling by year 7 so you can start recycling some capital.
Yeah.
Or sometimes even before that. Right. So that's the reason why, sometimes that 5-year window is ideal. But it also depends on the strategy. Sometimes it could be quick. Let's say it's a quick value add play. I could bump up rents. Yeah. It could appreciate. It could be 3 years, right? Or let's say sometimes things happen, deal doesn't perform as you planned. Yeah. And you need to hold it for a little longer. Maybe it's 7 years. So it just depends.
Yeah. So it sounds like this
the structure is more like dynamic, depending on the market, investor needs, the property,
That's right,
etc. So, okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. But go ahead, continue. Keep walking us through the cycle.
Okay, so that's the asset management piece, right? So once you've acquired the deal, right, you know, there's a business plan you put together to say, hey, we need to pull these levers to get to this return, right? So you're probably going to hire a property manager to be your boots on the ground at the property and say, hey, we want to execute these value creation strategies through you guys, right? So you guys will manage that. We'll be the strategic folks, and we'll pull these levers over the whole period so we can get to, you know, the return that we want.
What's an example of a value creation strategy in real estate, private equity?
Yeah, so it depends on the asset, right? So let's say it's apartment complexes. Let's say it's multifamily, right?
I like it.
So I think that's something that most folks can, you know, will understand, right? Because, you know, people live, that's what you live, right? So let's say if a building, you know what, perfect example, right? So we lived in Philly, right?
Here we go.
We lived in Philly, right? So I lived at 2400 Chestnut, right? So it's older building, built in the 70s, you know, prime location right off the Schuylkill River.
Beautiful.
You know, great location. But older building, like a Class C sort of building, right? And so what my building did was, you know, they revamped the whole lobby because a lot of students live in that building. So they built a new gym, they built a study area, you know, they have brand new Amazon package lockers. So that's an example of a value creation strategy. So what they're going to do now is
they gonna hike that rent up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Got you. Okay.
That's a perfect example.
Okay. Appreciate that. Cool.
Yeah.
And then,
hey, I know that was a bar. Take 2 seconds, like the video, consider subscribing, share this with someone. Back to the content.
Bro, I think that was one of the more simple explanations of the cycle of real estate private equity. So I appreciate that. I know the audience is going to appreciate that, man. Yeah. So, boom. So you were employee number 2 at Avery Capital, right?
That's right.
First, amazing, right? How did that come about?
Yeah. So first, let's talk about what Avery Capital is.
Let's do it.
Right. So Avery Capital, real estate private equity firm, founded in 2020 by Avery Johnson, right? So we're here in Texas, right? So
come on, Mavericks, baby.
Yes, sir.
Come on, Coop. Bring us a ring, dog.
So yeah, Avery Johnson, we know him as coach. He played for the Spurs, coached the Mavs, you know, so really strong Texas ties. And so he started a private equity firm, house employee number 2 at. It's a really cool story.
Yeah.
The way that came about was I went to a TREC event. So TREC is Texas Real Estate Council.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty much pulls all the real estate executives from all around the city, and they have an annual event, right? Yeah.
Sound like money to me.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So it was good. So we had like a casino night, you know, similar to how we have, you know, fight night. Yeah. We had casino night. And so, you know, everyone's in their tuxes, right? And just gonna keep it honest, right? So I see another black man, right? Who's probably 10 years my senior, right? His name is John Bailey. So, but I'm like, this guy looks sharp. Let me have a conversation with him because he's the probably only other black person I see here, right? So I walked up to him. We have a conversation. You know, I tell him what I'm doing at Crow, and he says, you know, he's pretty taken aback by my experience, and he's like, all right, yeah, you know, love what you're doing. You know, I didn't know anything was going to come out of that conversation. We exchanged contact information. But a few months after that, coincidentally, John Bailey, Avery Johnson, right? They meet, right? They meet at a bar. They have a conversation, and that leads to, you know, ideas of starting a private equity firm.
Wow.
Right. So John, you know, he's had experience in commercial real estate probably for the past 15 years, right?
Okay.
You know, Avery Johnson, very strong name in Texas, has the ability to raise capital. So you bring those two together, you know, and that's a powerhouse, right?
Wow.
But then what do they need? They need someone who's going to be able to underwrite the deals,
yes,
right?
Sir.
And so they tap me for
They
that.
need you.
Yeah,
they need you. That's good, bro.
So that's how the opportunity came about.
That's awesome. So being employee number 2 in a new and growing fund, you got to know how to lead too.
That's right.
What did that experience teach you about leadership?
So what that taught me about leadership is that, you know, you have to be able to wear multiple hats, right?
Okay.
So you're in a situation where, you know, you're creating order out of something that is not that orderly. You know, there may be some chaos, right? So some days, you know, you have to underwrite deals. Some days you have to talk to a broker. Some days you have to, you know, find an app so that we can get this document notarized so that we can get this deal through. You got to find different ways to get the job done, right? You also have to lead up, right? I'm the most junior person at the firm at this time, right? You know, and I'm coming with institutional knowledge from Crow, and I'm working with, folks who, don't have that same institutional background, right? So I have to have the confidence. I'm 24 at this point, right?
Yeah.
I have to have the confidence to say, hey, I don't think this is gonna work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it teaches you how to, have confidence in your voice too.
Just to be 24 years old with that type of experience, surrounded by that type of money in Texas is amazing. Is there anything that like really surprised you about real estate private equity?
Yeah, I'd say one thing that surprised me about real estate private equity, specifically being 24, 25, is you are the money, right? And so what that means is when you're interacting with, property managers, third parties, right? Like they want to listen to you and you have to act like you're, you're in charge. You know what I mean? So I've had to manage people who, 20 years my senior, right? Who are property managers. And so like I've had to have really hard conversations with my property manager. And there was one time where I had to yell at him over the phone.
Bro.
To the point where Coach and John are coming into the room and like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's okay. But yeah, it forces you to grow up quickly.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're coming from a position where, maybe you weren't that confident in your voice or, you haven't had the opportunity to lead like that in the past.
Yeah.
It forces you to grow up because, deals can be on the line, and that depends on whether you speak up or not.
When you said that, I kind of got chills because I get it, bro. Like even in the military, right? Like graduating, being 22, 23 years old, leading a team of 80 people, as young as 18, as old as 60 years old. Some people just hard-headed and like some people not gonna move unless you sort of use a little bit of, tactful authority. That's so, right. Bro, I get it. Yeah. You are the money. Hey, maybe I should have did real estate, man. Oh no, man. Oh no. So like to that point, about how much money were you bringing in before taxes in this real estate private equity game?
Yeah, real estate private equity, as an associate, I was bringing in $150,000 as pre-business school. Yeah, I had, rental property on the side that was bringing in some money, but as far as salary goes, that's how much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what skills were you learning, right? You sort of spoke about being confident in your voice, managing up, which is a good one. What other like tactical skills were you learning through real estate private equity?
Yeah, so some other tactical skills I learned: negotiation, discernment, right? Especially in the space that we were investing in, it's very small, right? And so you have to keep certain things close to the vest, and you have to know when to divulge information, when to not divulge information. Yeah. Because that can make or break a deal. And I actually learned that the hard way. And so, there's certain things that you learn that, you get hit on the chin, and then you learn and you grow through it. So those are some of the things I learned.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Dang. Bro, I think you landed in a great career post-undergrad, real estate private equity. You learned a lot. You were able to move around Texas making $150,000, 24 years old. We don't have taxes here. Boy, I know you. Man, that's awesome. Is there anything about this industry that you believe people misunderstand?
So one thing that's misunderstood in real estate private equity is carry or carried interest.
Yeah.
Right. So most folks think, okay, I'm getting into private equity. You want to make your salary, you want to make your bonus. That's actually not where the real money in PE is made. Right?
Where is the real money in PE made?
Go
ahead.
Real money is made through carried interest, right? And so it gets a little bit complex, but there are relationships between the LP and the GP that's called a waterfall, right? And so LPs are going to require a certain level of return based on the level of risk that they're taking, right? If you're able to produce that and then some, the GP is compensated in a manner that is, outsized relative to the LP. Right. And so like if you can add value over a period of time, you can bring in carried interest that could dwarf your salary and bonus.
Right.
So that's possible.
So then how is carry paid out?
Yeah. So carry, it's generally paid toward, let's say deal sells, gotcha. It depends on how the fund is structured, or, a deal has just finished, a fund is just finished, carry is paid out. And then, senior folks, maybe it's VP on upward, may have, 1%, 2% of carry.
Got you.
And so it's then distributed based on what percentage of ownership you have. But all firms don't give it to like a junior person. Like you typically have to show some skin in the game first.
Got you. Okay, cool. So now we're going to talk about business school for a second. Going into business school, it seems as though you were like on top of the world, right? Like great experience, had a great job after undergrad, a phenomenal pivot, right? Into Avery Capital, making good money, living in Texas, having fun, learning, and then you stopped to go to business school. Why?
I knew where I was at Avery Capital. So we're investing in a niche space. It's a smaller firm. And I knew that I had broader private equity visions. And, maybe down the line, I want to start my, own thing, right? So I wanted to make sure I had the, resources, the exposure, access to capital, access to relationships. And I'll plug this really quick as well. So, one thing I noticed about real estate is that it's a little bit slower to adopt technology than other spaces, right?
Okay.
So while I was working in real estate private equity, I worked at a startup accelerator for 18 months on a part-time basis, right?
Got you.
And so we're investing in underrepresented founders. So whether that be, women, people of color, folks who are LGBTQ, veterans who had businesses, right? One thing I realized is that, a lot of these folks had brilliant ideas, but didn't have access to capital, didn't have access to relationships or the resources. And so their businesses would, be stagnant. Right. And so I noticed, I said to myself, I don't want to be in that position. Right. And so I want to have a resource that's going to allow me the ability to move and shake when I want to move and shake. And so that was a big part of the reason why I wanted to go to business school.
Okay, so I understand why you chose to go to business school, right? There, you saw a void in the industry that you want to go dominate. But talk about your journey to business school, right? So like, why Wharton? How was it? Did you cry during your process, right? Like, how was your journey to business school?
The initial parts of the journey to business school, really challenging.
Okay.
Treacherous.
Yeah.
Right, so once I decided I wanted to go to business school, this is around 2020.
Okay.
After that, exposure at the Startup Accelerator, I said, all right, I want to start studying for the GMAT, right? And so, brother, I took the GMAT 4 times.
Hey, brother, me too. At least, actually. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
So
we good.
4 times. I remember first time I took it was in undergrad.
Okay.
And the score I got was quite pitiful.
Yeah.
2020, we're taking courses now.
Yeah. I need help now. Right.
So I had resources, I had tutors, I had mentors. And so, after taking that a few times, that got me over the hump. So, that took a lot of persistence, took a lot of diligence. But I think the thing about me is that, once I have my mindset on a goal, it's just a matter of time.
Right.
Like it's gonna get done.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the GMAT score as well. It's also about, putting yourself in the spaces that will allow you to be, seen favorably by business schools, right? So I was fortunate to, I got exposure to a program called MLT.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we
Shout out to MLT,
Shout
man.
out to MLT.
Love
Shout
y'all.
out to John Rice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So management leadership training, management leadership for tomorrow. Right. So I got exposure to that program, and it really showed me how to craft my application process. Do the deep work of understanding what you want and how business school will allow you to get there. Right? How do you build relationships with your people are going to write your letters of recommendation? How do you reach out to current students and alums to find out, okay, what does this school stand for? Yeah. Right? Because every school has its own personality. Every school has its quirks. And so that helped me decide on the schools that I wanted to apply to.
That's awesome, man. Bro, so that's actually where you and I met, MLT. And man, shout out to you, because I remember going through my GMAT journey. Dog, I remember us calling each other in our do-rags, praying, like, we gonna do this. It's tough, but we gonna do it, man. And now we're on the other side. So, man, shout out to you. Thank you for being with me through that journey. Bro, MLT was like a lifeline, right? It's like MBA application boot camp almost, because it's not easy, right? But it's so necessary though. It's especially right, and Paul Quinn, great school, right? But it just probably doesn't train you to, or even expose you to, the possibility of business school. Am I sort of?
Yeah. So I am the first Paul Quinn grad to graduate from an Ivy League business school.
Man.
Yeah. So
insert some sound effects on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I'm trailblazing for those who are coming behind me.
Yeah, you are.
There's some folks who I'm actually mentoring now who are looking to come to Wharton. So I'm looking to build that pipeline. But so, I didn't have that exposure at Paul Quinn. But fortunately, I had a college president who, had exposure, has been in higher places and saw talent in me and wanted to plug me into those opportunities.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you chose Wharton. Like, when you started going for the GMAT, most people have a target school in mind. Was Wharton always on your radar? Was it your number one choice? Was there any friction? Talk about that.
That's a good question. So as far as deciding schools, Columbia was actually my number one choice at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually my number one choice.
All right. So what happened?
Yeah, so I got into both schools, right?
Okay. Little flex, but okay.
Yeah. Got a little scholarship.
Little bag.
Yeah.
A little scholarly.
But what was interesting is that, I really wanted to go to Columbia primarily because it was in New York.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had some different aspirations while I was applying to school. I was working on a startup, and I thought being in New York was going to be the best, avenue to do that. But as I grew, went through the MLT process and looked at what the schools had to offer from an objective point of view, Wharton really started to stand out a lot more. Like my background is in real estate private equity. I also value community building among diverse folks. And I thought Wharton was a great place to do that. Number one school for private equity, number one school for real estate as well.
Yeah.
Number one school for, also diverse people in the classroom. 70 countries are represented in our classmates, maybe more. Right?
Say that.
So, and also the fact that it's in Philly, which is a place where not everyone is from, right? It creates a dynamic where folks want to build relationships together.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, let's say I'm from New York. If I went to Columbia, maybe I'm hanging out with people who I already know.
You're going to hang out with your friends, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it creates these cliques, sort of environment where Wharton being in Philly, I think it's more of a melting pot for me, which is ironic.
Yeah, right. Nah, man. Look, I couldn't take away anything you just said, bro, about our school, man. So that was good. So you got into Wharton, you got into Columbia. When you got into Wharton, I believe Wharton came after Columbia, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it like, oh man, I'm going to Wharton, period? Yeah. Or did it take a little bit of decision making for you?
Yeah, it took some decision making, and the scholarship was a big part of it. So fortunately, I got, like I said, a full ride to Columbia, and then I said, I remember driving to work. Right.
Okay.
I'm probably 3 minutes away from work. I got my, I already got my acceptance to Columbia. I got a full ride. I got accepted to Wharton. I said, God, the only way I'm making a decision to go to Wharton is if I get a full ride. So I didn't know what's up. Yeah.
And God said, "Oh man, let me
drop that on you.
Bag on this boy real quick."
Yeah.
Drop that, man.
No, but it took some thinking through. I spoke with current students at Columbia. I spoke with current students at Wharton, and just to, it's our school, so I'm happy to, brag on us.
Yeah.
Once you get accepted, there's a lot of different touch points as far as students reaching out, as far as maybe some professors trying to engage. There are a lot of different touch points. I didn't get as much of that from Columbia, right? Columbia was like pay your deposit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So I felt a lot of the love coming from Wharton.
Yeah.
And I knew that was the sort of alumni network I wanted to be part of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Facts.
that helped me get me over the hump too.
Facts.
Yeah.
So now that you're on the other side, congrats, alum. Congrats on graduating,
yes.
man. What are you looking forward to now? Like, what are you working on now for yourself after graduation?
A few things I'm working on right now. So recruiting for a full-time role.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the intersection of, industrial real estate, infrastructure. So real assets as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So whether that be infrastructure, whether that be, digital assets, logistics, those are the things I'm interested in right now. So I'm recruiting for roles in that space.
Got you.
Right. But I'm also interested in community building outside of that and brand building, right? So through Wharton, we get a lot of exposure. So I was able to get a wine certification.
There we go.
Wharton. Got the W.
Yeah. Need it.
So,
yeah.
I want to build community starting here in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Among real estate investors who are interested in wine. Right?
Yeah.
So, bringing those two worlds together, I think that's going to flourish here. So that's something I'm working on too.
Yeah. That's interesting, right? So you mentioned you're still recruiting, right? There is an article that went viral some time ago about, I think it was from The article talked about Harvard specifically, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
And it sort of talked about, MBA is not finding jobs. We have these discussions at our table. I want you to give your take on that though, right? Because you made the choice to go to one of the best business schools in the world, right? Like Harvard, right? Like Stanford, et cetera. And yes, some people are still recruiting. Why do you think people are still recruiting?
A few things. People are still recruiting. We're in a market, there's cycles, right? And so, there are a lot of macroeconomic headwinds that are causing uncertainty, and companies are reluctant to, make the decision to hire.
Right.
For example, right? Like I've gone 5 rounds with an investment bank.
Yeah.
Be unnamed.
Yeah.
And they ended up pulling the role, not because of anything bad on their part, but there's some things that they were uncomfortable with as far as the economy is concerned, where they decided to not, make that hire. Right. So we're experiencing things like that, right? But this happens, every 10 years or so. There's going to be some sort of macroeconomic thing that's going to, make it challenging to get roles, right?
Yeah.
However, right, this is a time where it's not just about what I learned in school. It's about like, can I hustle? Can I put the pedal to the metal and reach out? Can I, do above and beyond to, show a firm that I'm interested in, hey, this is the reason why you should hire me. I'm going to add value in X, Y, and Z ways. Right?
Yeah.
And so, you just have to display scrappiness, right?
Right.
And I think that is something that, is necessary for leadership. Like, let's say if I want to be entrepreneurial at all, I need to be able to show now that, hey, I can display those skills to get me the role I want.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, there are jobs that I could take right now, but I'm trying to my goal is to make career moves, right? And so I'm willing to hold out a little bit and continue to hustle so I can get the role I want.
And you would argue that because you did the hard work up front to get into a very selective business school, you sort of earned the right to mold and shape your next move on your time.
100%, I'd agree with that. And I'd also say this, right? So a lot of the firms I'm talking to, when I share my story, share my background, share what I want to add to the firm, they're like, we love what you're looking to add. It's just a economy thing right now. So once we do have an opportunity, we want to keep you top of mind. So that is common. And so you just have to keep shooting shots.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was telling a young bull who's trying to get into school right now, sort of asked me the same question. And look, my answer was simple. Getting into the school, it doesn't guarantee you success. The hustle is sold separately. That's right. Like you still got to be about that. Yeah. Because this economy is not forgiving at all. So yeah, thank you for answering that, bro. So being on the other side of business school again as an alum, what have you changed your mind about since going through Wharton?
It's not something that I've changed my mind about. It's just I've gotten more exposure to what is possible, right? And so, for example, in December, about 7 months ago, did a trip to Dubai and Abu Dhabi with the real estate club at Wharton.
Love the real estate club.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Great club.
Excellent club.
Great club.
Yeah, so many good things to say.
Yeah.
Right. But the exposure I got there, meeting with the folks who are shaping, UAE's investment landscape, top sovereign wealth funds, top, wealth management funds, top real estate developers, showed me like what's really going on in the region and what's possible from an investment landscape. And so it just opened my eyes to what's possible. And now the things that I'm interested in doing are broader because of the exposure I've gotten through Wharton.
Yeah. That's awesome, bro. Bro, that is insane to grow up in New York, move to Dallas, and now talking about actually having some ownership in real estate in Dubai. Yeah. That's wild, bro. That's a heck of a journey. And I'm not sure how you feel right now, but you should feel very grateful, man, and very blessed to have gone through this journey. Is there anybody or anything or like one interaction that you can reflect on that sort of makes you feel grateful for this journey? Yeah,
this is actually perfect. So one thing I'm grateful for, is my wife.
There we go.
Right? Yeah. So just going through this journey, she's seen me from, the first GMAT test where, didn't do so hot to applying, proposed, getting married in school while balancing, schoolwork. It was hectic. Another thing too is, I had a big injury while I was in school, right? So, ruptured my patellar tendon, was on crutches, she was driving me to class and back. So, my wife, she's been there. She's been a supporter. She's been, she's held it down. So just gotta, give her flowers and tell her I love her.
Yeah. Salute to Dad, man.
Yeah.
Salute to Dad,
That's right,
man.
that's right.
We love the wives, man. And I know I'm super grateful as well. For you, I mentioned it earlier during our conversation, bro. It is hard to do something like this that you haven't been exposed to. It's hard to do that by yourself.
Yeah.
You've answered every call. You've answered every text. Maybe a little late, but you answered it eventually. Man, and you never stop to be encouraging and point me to the Lord. So I'm super grateful for you. And on that tip, right, on the note of like brotherhood, what is something that you want men of color specifically to take away from your journey?
One thing I want men of color to take away is intentionally check on your brother, intentionally build those relationships.
Yeah.
So even after school, right, it's easy for communication to just fall off.
Facts.
So I'm intentionally reaching out to you. I'm intentionally reaching out to the guys in the chat. If I listen to something, if I listen to a podcast I think guys might like, I drop it in the chat, things like that. So
yeah,
I think men of color sometimes struggle with that. I can speak for myself. I struggle with that.
Oh, me too, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, me
I
too.
struggle with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm intentionally reaching out. If I see someone post something on Instagram or LinkedIn, I might text them on the side, congrats about this, how'd this go, So
Yeah.
just looking to maintain those relationships because, we need each other.
Yeah.
And we flourish when we're together.
Facts. I actually think you do a better job than you think. Like you keep our group chats sort of alive and going, right? He's a good add to the group chat. Yeah, for sure. So as we land the plane here on these conversations, we really strive to like not lose the recipes, as our grandparents would say, right? So look, man, your journey's incredible. I can't say that enough. What is one thing you want people to take away from your journey, especially as they think about charting a path similar to you?
Yeah, so as folks think about charting a similar path or, whatever they want to do, one recommendation I'd have is do the personal work to create your own investment thesis, your own investment judgment. Like have your own conviction about why you think something is interesting, right?
Yeah.
I think that's interesting because, as you're going to school, you're taught accounting, you're taught finance, you're taught these different things, but no one is going to teach you, what to have conviction about.
Yeah.
You have to do the homework on yourself to find out, all right, what do I think is interesting? Why do I think it's interesting? Because if you have your own, thesis, you come across much stronger to someone who you're speaking with. You got to have an opinion, right?
Right.
At this stage, right, like once you're, getting to the mid-level of your career, people value folks who have a strong opinion.
Yeah.
So have a strong opinion about whatever you want to pursue.
Man, this conversation has been rich. I can't wait to chop this up. I know people are going to learn a lot from it, man. Before we land the plane, is there anything you have for me? This is a dialogue here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So one thing I'm thinking to ask you is, why is this important to you? Why is creating this content, important for people to see? What's your purpose behind it?
Yeah, bro. For me, I think the most important aspect of life is exposure. Right. It's not hard work. Hard work is important, but exposure to opportunities, exposure to resources, and in this case, exposure to the process of becoming whoever it is that you're going to become is important. Right. So me talking to my friends here, like we all have such unique experiences. Right. I think LJ said it perfectly in his speech. Like every nameplate has a story. And if we democratize the stories to each and every one of those names, no kid anywhere would go without a reference point to what they want to do with their career. Yeah. This is about getting information about careers out to the world.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Love that. And
so,
we need it.
Yes, we do. We do. Yeah. So yeah, man, that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I called you. I know people are gonna learn a lot from this discussion, man, and I appreciate your time, bro.
100%, bro.
Already cool.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's a big table.
Yeah,
it's a big table.